Tension is the most powerful weapon in cinema. A glance, a silence, a minimal gesture. And suddenly the viewer feels as if the whole world could collapse in an instant. These scenes don't just grab you, they paralyze you. Today, you're going to see the 10 most tense sequences in the history of cinema. Moments where suspense takes its purest form, and where even breathing feels too risky.
Ah, Landa, da sind Sie ja! Emmanuel, voici le colonel SS Landa. Il sera chargé.
The Spahn Ranch sequence in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is a masterclass in how to build tension without showing anything explicit. Rick Dalton isn't there, Sharon Tate doesn't appear, but Tarantino makes the audience feel that something terrible could happen at any moment. Cliff Booth walks through that abandoned space, surrounded by strange young people who stare at him like an intruder in enemy territory. Each step is more uncomfortable, each glance more unsettling. The music stops, the dialogue is short, and silence becomes a weapon. Tarantino plays with our expectations. We know who the hippies are, we know what they represent. And that's why every closed door, every odd smile, every dark corner of the ranch feels like pure psychological terror. There's no actual violence, but the atmosphere is so dense, it feels impossible to make it out alive. It's Hitchcock in its purest form, filtered through Tarantino's style. The threat isn't a gun or a knife, it's the feeling that evil is lurking behind every polite gesture, waiting to strike. It's one of the tensest scenes in cinema, and Tarantino himself didn't even realize it, until his editor pointed it out.
Horror film. Oh, really? It's good? It's working really good? No, Quentin, you don't understand. It's the Texas Chainsaw Massacre with a budget.
The restaurant scene in The Godfather is one of the most tense moments in film history. To everyone else, it looks like a simple business dinner, but we know that Michael is hiding a decision that will mark him forever. What makes it unbearable is his hesitation. The son distanced from the mafia is about to destroy his innocence. The contrast between the calm dinner and the knowledge that the night will end in a double murder is suffocating. Coppola heightens the anguish with every pause, every look, every second of silence, until the roar of the train announces the explosion. That sound design is brilliant. We see nothing, but we feel the chaos roaring inside Michael. When he finally pulls the trigger, he doesn't just execute two enemies. He kills his old self and is born as the new Don. It's a cold murder, but also a birth. Coppola doesn't just film a crime, he films a metamorphosis, the instant a man becomes a legend. That mix of unbearable tension and dramatic transcendence makes this scene an absolute masterpiece. In The Birds, Hitchcock makes the everyday unbearable. Melanie waits on a bench outside the school. The children sing inside. Everything seems innocent. Until a crow lands on the jungle gym. Then another, and another, and another. There's no music, no explanation. Birds shouldn't be threatening, but they are. And what terrifies us is that we don't know why. We also don't know the limits of their violence. When will they strike? Who will they attack? How far can the horror go? The camera cuts back again and again to the yard, and the flock grows in silence, like a hidden army in broad daylight. The most disturbing part is the contrast with the school full of children. Fragile innocence against an invisible threat. It feels like a taboo is about to be broken, that something forbidden will happen with no turning back. Hitchcock turns the children's innocent singing into a countdown to catastrophe. When the birds finally attack, the tension erupts, but the real terror was already there. In that silent wait where we realize the world is no longer safe.
Are you sure there's nobody else in the house? Would you like to go upstairs and check?
In Zodiac, David Fincher builds one of modern cinema's most tense scenes without showing violence or even a real threat. Robert Graysmith, obsessed with discovering the killer's identity, visits a projectionist who might hold the answers. Everything seems normal. The conversation is polite, courteous. But every word sounds too precise, too unsettling. And then comes the invitation to the basement. That dark, damp place filled with creaks becomes a psychological hell. We see no weapons, hear no threats, but feel that something atrocious could explode at any moment. What terrifies is the uncertainty. Not knowing if this man is guilty, not knowing if Graysmith will make it back upstairs. Fincher, like Hitchcock, plays with our minds. The suspense lies not in action, but in possibility. That descent into the basement is a plunge into paranoia, into obsession, into the idea that evil could be anywhere, in anyone. And when Graysmith finally leaves unharmed, what remains isn't relief, but an unsettling emptiness. The real monster is still out there.
Put the gun down.
I saw you with a box. What was in the box?
Because I envy your normal life.
Put the gun down, baby.
It seems that envy is my sin.
Oh, what's in the box?
The ending of Seven is perhaps the most devastating climax in all of thriller cinema. After a case steeped in darkness, Mills and Somerset escort John Doe to an empty field under a merciless sun. Everything seems about to be resolved, until a van arrives with a mysterious box. At that moment, Fincher takes the audience's breath away. We never see the contents, but we know the truth. The tension doesn't come from explicit violence, but from the characters' reactions. Somerset's face when he opens the box says it all. Evil has already won. The unbearable part is Mills's emotional countdown, the battle between his innocence and the perfect trap Doe has set.
Oh, what's in the box?
He screams while the whole world holds its breath. When the tension peaks, evil triumphs, a life is destroyed, and the work is complete. What makes this scene a masterpiece isn't the shock, but the despair of realizing there was never an escape. It's the absolute triumph of evil, and one of the darkest, most tense conclusions in film history. In North by Northwest, Hitchcock delivers one of the most legendary suspense sequences with the famous crop duster chase. The brilliance lies in subverting every expectation. Roger Thornhill waits for a contact in the middle of a barren, endless plain where nothing seems likely to happen. There's no music, no crowds, no hiding places, just silence and horizon. Then a crop duster appears, at first meaningless, until, for no reason, it begins to attack the protagonist. The contrast is total. The threat doesn't arise in darkness, but in broad daylight, in an open space that should be safe. Hitchcock turns that emptiness into a death trap, a place where escape is impossible because there's nowhere to hide. Each pass of the plane is a heartbeat of tension. Each burst of fire and chemicals a reminder that danger can strike from any angle. The chase stretches on to the point of desperation until the final explosion. It's a scene that sums up Hitchcock's genius, turning a simple landscape into an unforgettable nightmare. Here, tension doesn't hide in the shadows, but shines with full force under the sun. Few scenes in cinema history convey such claustrophobia as Clarice Starling's descent into Buffalo Bill's basement. Here, suspense becomes pure terror. The young FBI agent moves through the darkness, unaware that she's already being watched. Demi places the audience in an impossible position. We see what she cannot. Through the killer's night vision goggles, we feel his breath on her, see his hand tremble, watch sweat trickle down her face. It's as if we're inside the predator's mind, part of his sick game. The unbearable part is her vulnerability, a young woman alone, surrounded by corpses and traps, while the beast lurks inches away. The silence is so dense that every step feels like a gunshot. And when Clarice, guided only by instinct, manages to flip the roles and fire in the dark, we don't feel relief, but the weight of having been too close to absolute evil. This scene forces us to experience the forbidden, to look through the eyes of a monster. And that's what makes it immortal.
I don't know. I couldn't say.
A man walks into a gas station. He talks about peanuts, about the road, trivial things. It seems harmless, until Anton Chigurh decides that this moment will be a death sentence. Suddenly, a coin on the counter is no longer worth 25 cents. It's the line between existence and oblivion. What's terrifying is the absence of logic, of motive. The old man doesn't even realize what's at stake, but we do. And that difference turns every silence into torture. Chigurh doesn't shout, doesn't threaten. His calm is the coldest violence ever filmed. The tension doesn't come from what he does, but from what he could do at any moment. Here, life and death are reduced to a coin toss, to indifferent chance. And that's the horror. Realizing that for Chigurh, human life is worth no more than the metallic sound of a coin hitting the table. The Coen brothers condense the essence of evil into a few minutes. Impersonal, absurd, inevitable. One of the simplest scenes in cinema, and also one of the most devastating. The beach scene in Jaws is definitive proof that suspense doesn't depend on what we see, but on what we imagine. Spielberg hides the threat underwater, invisible, and turns a sunny day into psychological hell. Everything is designed to make us feel what Chief Brody feels. The camera lingers on his increasingly tense face, while around him, normality reigns. Children playing, swimmers chatting, laughter and sun. And yet every shot is contaminated by the suspicion that something terrible is coming. The editing is brilliant. Spielberg cuts from one group to another, from legs underwater to a missing dog, as if every detail could spark disaster. The audience knows what the characters don't. The whole beach is a feast waiting to be devoured. And that asymmetry paralyzes us. When the shark finally strikes, the shock is brutal. But the unforgettable part was the waiting. That sense that the threat could erupt at any second, that no one was safe. It's suspense in its purest form, cinema turned into collective paranoia.
And what would that be?
Steglitz.
See how Fida's into your Nazi boss.
The tavern scene in Inglourious Basterds is without question the Everest of cinematic suspense. It lasts more than 20 minutes, and in all that time, Tarantino achieves what few directors ever have, keeping the audience on the brink of collapse while almost nothing happens on screen. The secret is in the construction. A basement tavern, low ceilings, smoke and beer. Allied spies trying to stay calm. Nazi soldiers whose suspicions we cannot gauge. And a courteous officer who never loses his smile. The brilliance lies in the absence of chases or loud music. Only dialogue, pauses, and looks that turn into knives. Tarantino stretches tension beyond the bearable, like an executioner delaying the final blow. Every tiny gesture, a toast, a card, a mispronounced word, becomes a potential trigger for catastrophe. What makes this scene unique is that the tragedy feels inevitable from the first minute, and yet we're still shocked when it happens, because the resolution is so brutal. But the unforgettable part has already occurred. That half hour of cinema where suspense became absolute art. Hitchcock would be proud. No one, ever, has filmed tension with such perfection. If this journey gripped you, hit like, comment your most tense scene, subscribe for more cinema, and follow me on Letterboxd and Instagram to keep the conversation going.